Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Autism Our Story podcast. Today, I have the opportunity to chat with Tiffany, or TJ. She is the creator of nighfunctioning Autism, and she is also a paraeducator. She is a mother and she is autistic. Today, she's going to be communicating using her AAC device and also using her mouth words when it feels right. I've been following Tiffany for a while now on social media, and I've learned so much from her, and I just could not wait to bring her to the podcast to talk about communication and education rights. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to chat with you. I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and we'll start from there.
I am a single mother of 3 neurodivergent teens and live and work in and around Maryland and Virginia, primarily in the Washington, D.C. area. I am autistic, diagnosed in my late teens. I was diagnosed with other conditions when I was in elementary school, like central auditory processing disorder and ADHD. I also have had epilepsy and OCD since I was a child. I am hard of hearing as well. As such, I use many ways to communicate, like ASL, mouth words, high-tech AAC, and other ways depending on how accessible my speech and memory is to me at the moment. I will use both mouth words and high-tech AAC today. I am bilingual with English and Spanish and use both languages in my teaching and with all forms of motor-based communication methods. I work in special education, or more preferred, accessible education, as a para-educator for an elementary school. My passion in the disability space is for communication and education rights for people of all disabilities, militantly so, in fact. I specifically love teaching how to implement high-tech speech generating devices, as well as learning to teach motor coaching and spelling in schools and homes. I always say I would have had access to my own speech earlier in my life if I had text-based or high-tech speech generating methods. I also serve on the nonprofit board for Lily's Voice, which provides high-tech AAC access to students in the United States if they have no other means of getting one.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast. And I'm so excited to talk about education rights for non-speakers. I wanted to just start with, what do you consider to be the biggest misconception about non-speakers with autism?
The biggest misconception is that autistic bodies, facial expressions, behaviors, movements, actions, and sounds, or even speech tell a person or society what is going on inside of them or inside their mind. Most importantly, the lack of what's coming out of somebody also does not match what's going on inside.
Yeah, that's a big misconception. A lot of people struggle to grasp that, I feel like, because we've been taught to think a certain way for a long time. But I feel like talking about it on social media or doing what we're doing right now will help people understand that more and more to clear up that misconception.
Yes, I prefer that people think of autism as a physical disability. And if they can think about it like that, then they would understand like so much better.
Yes. And I feel like that really makes sense because it is mostly people that are non-speakers struggle with motor. So it's physical. And yeah, that is a good point that I haven't thought about it that way for people. Yeah, if people look at autism as a physical disability, they'll really understand that it's not intellectual. They'll really now start to see that what is on the outside probably does not match what's happening on the inside. So I wanted to talk about the impact that access to the right means of communication has on a non-speaker's ability to participate in school and for them to have access to an appropriate education.
Communication access means everything to participating in all parts of life, education especially. It allows a person to show their knowledge and access material that is correct for their actual level and not the assumed level. Also, access to education should not be predicated or depend on a student's level of communication, regardless of their ability to communicate for their pursued ability to communicate. They should not have lower access or less access to education and age-level curriculum. Nobody should have to prove their knowledge to be exposed to equitable education.
Yes.
And to piggyback on that, I believe that uh, even if a person does not have access to communication, they should still have access to the education that others are getting, regardless of their abilities to communicate. That's why I don't like segregated classes or anything like that, because um, it just there's the United States has already determined that separate but equal inherently is not equal.
Yeah.
So that's the same way with segregated, separate, sequestered, secluded classes. That's all that is happening. There's no equal education. The proper access to communication would include people understanding, um, like we were talking about before, the physical disability of autism. They wouldn't
Yes.
be so quick to just say, oh, they need to use these high tech devices when they don't even have the motor skills to do that. Like, it's so silly.
Yes. So true. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I feel like it's important for them to have the right means of communication, but not just that, to be in the same place where everybody else is, not in a separate class. You know, I don't feel like they will be motivated to give the same education that's being given to other kids in a different class.
They are not.
So that's where things like that could happen.
Hmm. They absolutely are not motivated to do so.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, that's
nobody there looking in, you know.
yeah, it's really important for educators to know that and to start to understand that autistic non-speakers, they deserve the same opportunities as other students. And I think that's a bias. That's something that probably most of them, because of how they're trained, might not realize it. And I mean, I don't like to think that all educators are just ignorant to this situation, but I feel like also they've been trained to do certain things and they're told to do certain things. But the more we talk about it, I feel like it'll make a change and it'll get to the people that do the training and that enforce things, and that will make the change. But yes, our all all of us deserve to have the same opportunities. Okay. So, as you've shared, you communicate using different means of communications. And I absolutely love that and that you have access to those. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the people that support some means of communication, like the AAC device, the high tech, while not being supportive of other means of communications like spelling to communicate. What are your thoughts on that?
They're very much missing the point. If you are supportive of AAC, then you should be supportive of all communication. It makes no sense that there would be so many people speaking about this communication method like we are without it having validity. I challenge those people to actually become practitioners who literally go through the training and go through teaching spelling to non-speakers to actually have something to say. Until they're actually sitting from outside, they have nothing that is to say.
It's just illogical that there would be so many people, and if we go to the history books, we can go 110 years back where letterboarding was used with non-speaking disabled people. That for all these decades, more than a century, and all these people through all these decades would be using a method or similar methods to help non-speakers communicate. And then so many of them get to independent typing where then it's seen as valid,
Yeah.
but the path to getting there is not valid. How is that logical?
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely illogical. Yeah, that's a good point because it's really that's how it is. People will perk up when they see a speller spelling on the keyboard by themselves, right? But when they're seeing the speller who still has somebody holding, the board and kind of needing to be prompted because it's a motor issue, we're trying to, they're trying to train the motor, they're doubting it, and like that doesn't make sense. That is part of the process for them to get to independent typing, and it should be as valid from the beginning. Even there are parts where, like my son right now, he's not an open speller, and that's okay, right? But you can kind of see that he is the one spelling on his own, even though I am prompting. But there are spellers that are not yet on the keyboard, but they are also able to spell for themselves, and still those are being criticized, or people are a little bit skeptical about that. That's It just doesn't make sense to me, and I really feel for the non-speakers that have to go through that, even because they've had moments where they didn't even have that to begin with, and now they have a means of communication, and now they're still being doubted. And
Mm. It all comes down to their intelligence being doubted. That's all it is.
oh yes, yeah, that's a
That's
good,
the
that's it.
basic line.
Yeah,
Because um, people would listen to there being a motor issue just fine if they believed the intelligence of a non-speaker,
yeah,
but they're not.
they
They
don't
just
want to believe the intelligence. Yeah, it's really unfortunate and very unfair, um just to think of somebody being their intelligence being doubted for the just for the only reason is that they can't communicate. That is really, yeah, unfair and unjust.
yes, it's um, it's really arrogance because people who have motor control are assuming that everybody has the same extent of motor control unless they have something like cerebral palsy. Otherwise, they are just not believed. They believe, well, it looks like you're doing it purposely. Well, why does it look like that?
Yeah,
And only because they're taking their understanding of their selves and superimposing it on other people just because they want to.
yeah,
They're told not to, and they still want to. It's
yeah,
it's just, it's just arrogance.
yeah, absolutely. That's what it is. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a world where people can, and most of the times it's people that have been in the fields of different other kinds of communication, and they don't want to believe or come to the understanding that they may have been wrong, for as long they have been doing it. It comes to the people, the ego, not wanting to accept that you might have been wrong in how you are doing things, and that is the big part of um, the paradigm shift. And people don't want to cross over from being in the position of accepting that, or humbling themselves and knowing have been wrong, and trying to change the how you've been doing things.
Yeah, being wrong is okay.
Yes, it is.
Not changing is not okay.
Yes. Yeah. We're not all perfect, we're all doing what we're doing the best we can with what we have. But when we have the information, we know something, we come to the realization that, oh, somebody brings it up that we might have been wrong, we should be able to change, instead of um being negative, or like like in this case, doubting somebody's intelligence instead of
For
accepting.
professionals,
Yeah.
exactly. For professionals, I believe it is professional neglect. I believe
Yeah.
that it should be um, that these things should be criminally prosecuted eventually.
Yes. I love that.
But, however, I don't think that will help people come out and
Change.
change. So
Yes.
for
But
now,
yes.
they can at least make it right.
Hmm. Yeah. I just like your way of thinking. You're really go for like we. I feel like most of the people that I talk to about these things are not as I don't know how to say. You're giving it justice. You're using the right words that we all are kind of afraid to use. Like they should be prosecuted for this, or like it's arrogance. Like that is so true, right? It really is. And yeah, I'm thankful for your point of view and for you to share how you how you see things.
Well, it's 2025, and from 1911, when I first saw letterboards being used for communication, I don't think that we can call it any other thing than arrogance or criminal neglect
Yes.
of vulnerable non-speaking people to have not listened to people for all these decades and to
Yes.
not even let um, this form or paradigm of thinking to be the main form right now because it is the only one that's literally guided by the people uh, it affects.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is. There's been enough time for people to get to a point where they can realize these things and make changes and changes. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So one of the other topics that I wanted to bring up is I wanted you to talk about the importance of presuming competence when it comes to providing any means of communication to autistic non-speakers.
Um, well, um, presuming competence, we need to let people know that is not assuming they have knowledge that they haven't been exposed to. It's not presuming somebody's a locked in genius.
Yeah.
So um, when people are providing a means of communication, they have to be very aware of the motor issue because people can mean to be doing or mean to be saying what they're saying, or they cannot.
Yeah.
So it's very important to um, wait, wait for the body to take control. Sometimes those immediate few touches or hits, like on an AAC device or even on a letterboard, might not be the one coming from them. It might be their body's automatic behavior.
Yeah.
And that's very true for AAC as well. So people need to be patient, give more time, wait, give even more time than they think is too much time. Like
Yeah.
even that is not enough time. And allow people to allow communicators or students to show what they know because they want to show it, but their body might not also allow them to show it. And if you're not presuming competence, then um, I, I can't understand how anybody could be a educator if they didn't presume competence because they wouldn't really think there's a point to teaching. They wouldn't
Yes.
really, and that's for all people teaching anything.
Hmm.
So if you're not presuming competence in your disabled student just because they're disabled, just remember you're discriminating for one, and you're not in the right mindset to teach anybody, because what do you think is the point of teaching?
Yeah. Yes. So true. Yeah. For me, I think about the times when a child is told they're not ready for an AAC device because whatever reason, which I never think there is a valid reason for that. And or when they talk about they're a non-speaker doesn't know their letters, because how do you know they don't? But that's why maybe they should not be doing spelling. They can't start spelling, or we will not accept spelling until we know for sure that they know their letters. And that's something that it's not, you can't measure that, they know when.
That's that's a case in the education part of me, that for not calling it spelling,
Yeah,
because it's
typing.
gets too mixed up in the yes, the education world.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just hit on that. Yeah.
so then you call it typing.
I call it typing, or I call it just communication,
Yeah,
motor-based communication therapy.
order
Is
based.
whatever you say, just don't say the word that will make them not do it. And spelling, unfortunately, has become like that, because people think, oh well, if they can't read, they can't spell. They haven't even been exposed. Like that. I think calling it spelling in the educational world is a barrier.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. I like that. And so I feel like that's a tip for parents who are dealing with PPTs, trying to fight for their non-speaker to have access to this communication. So you're saying we should use the term mother-based communication. I love that. That's like my first time hearing it, even though it makes sense. It is mother-based. All right. Yeah, that's something I'm going to take. I know I'm learning a lot on this interview, but I really love that. I'm going to be using that because we are struggling to have them accept that our son is communicating this way. So
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, in the education system, you got to use the right
the
terminology.
right terms, yes. Thank you so much. So, as an educator or as a autistic individual, um, what are some changes that you'd like to see in the educational system when it comes to providing access to communication and education to non speakers or minimally speaking individuals?
We need to focus on the actual spectrum that colors autistic experience, the apraxia dyspraxia spectrum. This determines if we can speak or communicate. It determines how our bodies react to our thoughts and sensory information. It's involved in ADHD paralysis, OCD.
It's what I want to say is, being autistic means you are experiencing the apraxia dyspraxia spectrum. Um, that's for all of us. So we need to focus on that completely for all of us in the education system. Uh, it means there would be no autistic people separated from other autistic people. There's no like special seat you get if you can speak. You're the
Yeah,
cool autistic because you can breathe and move your voice patterns at a normal rate. Um, uh, it means that all of our dyspraxia, apraxia issues would be taken into consideration. And so for like ADHD paralysis, think about that. That's
yeah,
dyspraxia. You can't get your body to move when you need to.
yeah,
It's emotionally stuck, and it sticks your body too. Um, uh, People who need body doubling, that's something that they started in the ADHD world, and it's a recognition that you need another person there to make your body do what it needs to. Body
yes,
doubling, um, that is what having a communication and regulation partner is.
Yes. I was just
And
about that.
uh, people need to realize that sometimes it's all about the sensory motor. Even if you can speak or not speak, your meltdowns are going to happen. Your um, behaviors are all going to be predicated on how is your body reacting to what's going on in your inner environment and your outer environment, and that is the apraxia dyspraxia spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like, yeah, that is the key for people to focus on the apraxia and dyspraxia and understand how that affects an individual, an autistic individual, a non-speaker. Understanding all of that, and that's a lot. There's a lot to it, and also like we talked about, people coming out of the norm, how things have been done for a while, because sometimes that might be wrong and that is okay, and learning to shift when you see that you're not, you've been wrong. And because the most important thing is not for you to stay right, it's for you to for the people that to be able to cater to the people that need this, these services, or the communication, the right communication and education, because it just hinders their progress, and it affects them
It's
negatively when people don't accept that they may have been wrong.
yeah. I think at this point it's I don't want to keep saying criminal or negligence, but at this point it's how can you describe a group of people or profession that continuously denies people's rights to the point where they don't want to live?
Yeah,
That's serious.
yeah, that is
How can you
absolutely.
describe that? What is any other way?
Yeah, they continue to ignore and dismiss and deny them access to human rights and basic human rights. And so, yeah, hopefully, things will change with time, or starting to change, or people, are be will lean into their human nature of like being caring to others, and knowing that to consider what others might be feeling,
Mhm.
um that's my
I
hope.
don't. I don't think they think people have feelings.
Yeah,
They think non-speaking people don't have feelings.
that's a
So I
yeah,
believe that we need to force these people to change.
yeah, it's getting to that point, right? Where we need to
I,
force them.
I
Yeah.
think it's been to that point. My aunts are non-speaking, and finding out that they had, they're in their, well, one has passed away, but she was in her mid-60s when she passed away. My other one is now in her mid-60s. And finding out that this could have been an option for them their whole lives
Yeah,
really,
it's heartbreaking. Ugh. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely
And
heartbreaking.
think of that, that's millions of, dozens of millions of people around the world.
Yes, because they're not the only ones, right? Yeah, living like that and watching people
And not
neglect.
having to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you think about it, it's really unfortunate and really unfair. And I just hope that the more we talk about it, the more we do what we're doing here, and yeah, keep spreading the word, things will change. I know it. I'm
And I'm
hopeful.
okay with forcing that.
Yes.
I'm okay
Yes,
with
because
forcing
yeah, when
that
it
change.
comes to it, if it comes to it, we really have to, these people, we have to fight for the voiceless because they need it, and they are helpless because they don't have it. And yeah, they need us to do that for them. Thank you so much for sharing that, and for being willing to come on the podcast to share and talk about such an important topic. And everything you shared here today is really important. And your perspective, your point of view, like I shared, like how you see things. I really love it. I like how you're to the point. You're not playing around, and I love that. Yeah, like we are gonna have to get to the point where we have to force them, and even you know see it as for them to understand that this is criminal. It's criminal. And so, yeah, thank you so much for doing that and sharing, and for everything you do. I follow you on social media. Everything you're doing is amazing. A lot of people are so inspired by you. I am too, and I learned so much from you.
Thank
And yeah, just wanted to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. And you're an amazing human, and
you.
I
Thank
am
you.
so in awe of everything you're doing. So before we finish, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any closing remarks, any advice, or anything you have to, any last comments.
Okay. Um, yes, so there's three things. So I want people to consider that um, every day that somebody spends not having access to communication is traumatic, is a day of trauma. That's why there's an urgency to this every day. And not having communication is like breathing. When you can't communicate, it's like when you can't breathe, you need that, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. And um, also to consider that the SLPs, the ABA therapists, the special education teachers are the ones who made spelling so popular.
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones who saw that what they're doing is not working, and
Mm-hmm.
they saw something better. And they would be in the cars when parents would come to regular sessions. They
Mm-hmm.
would go right out right after their regular sessions and do spelling sessions in cars. And these are people who are not supposed to do this,
Yeah.
but they knew better. And these are people who are a good portion of our practitioners now, like if
Yeah.
not even the main portion.
Most of them. Yeah.
So I need current professionals and people who will be professionals to understand that these are your people who are making or who had made spelling popular before parents started, But
Yes.
these are the ways that spelling came into the more, I don't want to say mainstream, but
Yeah.
more and more mainstream part of the autistic community and non-speaking community.
Yeah. That is so true. My son's spelling practitioner was his ABA therapist.
Mm-hmm.
She did stop doing ABA, but she was, and that sounds so true. I never thought of that being the case, that they're the ones who made it popular, but that makes sense to me. She has told me that she spelled with some of her kids in the car, and everything you shared there. So true. And I just feel like they're most of these people, it's because of how they're trained, right? Sometimes what they're doing might not be serving the non-speaker in the way, but also their hearts are in the right place, and that is
Mm-hmm.
why they're so
And they're gonna
open
do it
to
what
do
works.
anything that works. Yeah.
Exactly.
And yes, so yeah, I'm really thankful for all of them, that anyone that is pulled to want to work in the special education. I believe that if anybody wants to do, I don't want to say all of them, but most of the people that want to work in special education, their hearts are in the right place. They really
Yeah.
are such caring people, because you have to have that kind of heart to be in that field. And, but yes, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, I really think that everything you shared here is going to help a lot of people have a better understanding of what non-speakers go through. And I just love what you shared about not being able to communicate. Each day a person not being able to communicate is traumatic. You never think about that, but when you sit to think about it, it's true. Like, imagine a person that is speaking and you stop speaking someday. That might how you might feel. So we don't always think about those things. And and now it's easy to see your point of view and how you see things and why you see it as an urgent thing and why you're not playing around. Like I said, it's important. Thank you so much for that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can get notified whenever I post new episodes. Until next time.